Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so let's begin the meeting of the Groundwater Users Advisory Committee meeting. If I could, I would like each of the members to please introduce themselves. I am Stephen Cleveland, the chairman of the GUAC. Frank?
I'm Frank Fairbanks, also a member of the GUAC for the Phoenix AMA.
Dave?
Good afternoon. Sorry I'm late. Dave Roberts with SRP and a member of the GUAC.
And who else do we have with us?
Rory Van Pocky, member of the GUAC AMA, Phoenix AMA. Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And is our Buckeye representative out here?
I'm here.
Welcome.
Buckeye. Thank you.
Introduce yourself, please.
My name is Stephen Bales. I've lived here for 60 years.
And you've been with our group 2 months, right?
It feels like 60, but I think much more than that.
Come on, Stephen.
Oh, come on, yeah.
I started last fall sometime. I don't remember the first. I know I was here in November, September, October. When did you guys have me come on? I don't know.
Does anybody have a problem with that?
No.
You never open yourself up to those kind of observations.
You got it. Lesson learned.
Okay, let's turn this over to staff and who would like to begin it? I think Shepard would like to start.
My name is Kennedy Shepard. I'm the GUAC coordinator.
My name is Kyle Miller. I'm AMA director. John Riggins, statewide planning manager.
Melissa Sykes, Water Management Assistance Program Coordinator. Jenna Norris, Governor's Water Council Coordinator.
Anyone else?
My name is Maggie Martin. I'm a management plan specialist at the department.
Welcome.
My name is Natalie Mast. I'm the AMA director responsible for the management plans.
Okay, let's turn this over to staff and begin our meeting.
Good afternoon, everybody. I want to go over some webinar logistics before we get started. The first thing I ask is that can everybody please mute their phone? This helps us reduce audio feedback. If you do have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box that's at the bottom right-hand corner. Those will be read and addressed at the end of each presentation. If you would like to address the council, call to public is your time to do that. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on our website once the recording is generated. Also, if you're having any technical difficulties, please contact our ADWR help desk and their information is on the screen. And that is all I have for now, Mr. Chair.
Any questions of staff? Okay. Who has the first agenda item?
All right, so I will give an ADWR current activities update. Again, this is Kyle Miller with the AMA section. Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. It's good to be with you again. Before I get started, I just wanted to extend a welcome to our newest member, Mr. Van Pocky. Welcome to the GUAC. We're looking forward to working with you in the future. We have a pretty full agenda today, as you've seen, and we've also been really busy at the department, so I'll be glad to provide a brief update on some of the things we've been working on. As you know, annual reports were due for us on March 31st. If you remember last year, we went into COVID-related teleworking right at the end of March 2020. So most of last year's annual reporting was pretty normal, except for the very end, the little rush we get. So that means that this was our first year in which the entire season was impacted by COVID. We attempted to move as much as possible as we could to be able to complete it online or from home while continuing to provide prompt and courteous customer service to our reporting parties and those in our stakeholders and interested members. We succeeded in that goal thanks in large part to the innovation of our annual reporting coordinator and the hard work of all of our staff. Utilization of our online reporting tool is going to end up being higher this year than last year, and that benefits us in several ways. Results in better data, requires less time that we have to dedicate to QC and data entry. We sent out the first round of failure to file notifications in April, and we're on pace to meet our goal of ending the reporting year with about 5% of rights failing to file across all AMAs. As we work to collect any remaining reports, we're also shifting some of our resources and time to data entry and quality control checks on the data that we've received so far. And I've said this several times, but that's a long and detailed process that takes us several months and something we're looking forward to bringing back and presenting it as part of our statewide use estimates later in the year, perhaps early next year. We've also dedicated a significant amount of time to developing and publishing sector-specific web pages, and we've already received really positive feedback on those. And Kennedy will be clicking through the municipal and agricultural web pages here. These pages contain information about the mandatory conservation programs, some details on each sector, and a frequently asked questions section. Pause when she pulls that up here. We also have all of the relevant forms from each of the sectors posted on their web pages. So the agricultural and municipal pages are currently live, and the industrial page is under development and will be published probably in the next week or so. Really looking forward to getting that one live. I encourage you all to please take a look at these and let us know if you have any thoughts or suggestions so that we can make any necessary improvements. Look forward to hearing from you on that. The planners are also working on sector-specific data dashboards, and that's going to contribute to our data sharing initiative that we've been dedicating a lot of time to, and should be useful for anyone looking to learn more about water use in the AMAs. We have a really strong team in place in the AMAs, and I look forward to sharing some of those finished products with you in future meetings. The department has also recently published a legislative affairs webpage, and the top area of this page, once it loads, scroll down a little, has an update on the current status of the legislative session, and below that you can see any posted committee hearings. There are none at this time, as you can see. Our legislative liaison, Ben Alternator, tracks relevant bills on this page, and if you click enacted legislation, you can see bills that have passed and have been signed by Governor Ducey so far this session. And each bill listed has a short summary and a link to the actual text of the bill if you'd like to review that. We're also continuing to work to administer the $2 million groundwater conservation grant that was part of DCP. And of those 18 selected projects across all AMAs, 16 have executed their contracts, and the other 2 are in progress and should be finalized soon. I think Melissa will have a little bit more details on that when she has her presentation. Outside the AMAs, our groundwater modeling unit continues making progress on their projects, including updating the Prescott AMA groundwater model, developing a new groundwater model for the Phoenix AMA, and that's going to combine the East and West Salt River Valley and the Hassayampa subbasins. They're updating the Tucson AMA model and participating in the Pinal stakeholders group activities and meetings. Our field service unit is also busy. They're preparing the Phoenix AMA water level change map series report and conducting water level measurement site visits for index wells statewide. And then finally, our public stakeholder processes are ongoing. The Arizona Reconsultation Committee continues to hold modeling and analysis work group meetings. They've met twice since our last GUAC meeting on March 11th and May 13th. And recordings of both of those meetings and dates for future meetings will be posted on our website. And we've also made progress on the management plans and 5th management plan activities. And Maggie is going to give a more detailed update later in this meeting. And likewise, the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council continues to hold committee meetings, and a summary of those activities will be provided by John here shortly. So that concludes the agency activities update.
Any questions from council members? Observations? Okay, let's move on to the next topic.
So next we have an Ltac update from Sam Draper, and Sam will provide an update on the Landscape Technical Advisory Committee activities and the low water use plant list.
Thank you, Kyle. Let me just share my screen. All right, it's sharing properly. Excellent. Thank you for having me this afternoon. I'm glad to be here to share an update on the Phoenix AMA Ltac with the GUAC. First off, wanted to go back in time a little bit. As part of the 1980 Groundwater Management Code and subsequent AMA management plans, municipalities and other water users are required to have low water use plants and medians and rights of ways if groundwater was to water them. This came as a response to miles of turf being planted along a few freeways, which used a lot of water that ADWR was to be monitoring. Turf landscapes were common at that time, and the image of the Phoenix area as a lush oasis was still deeply rooted and promoted. The list had a great impact, had a greater impact than anyone could have imagined, essentially requiring that every median and right-of-way became a demonstration project, setting a new expectation for our landscapes and embedding our outdoor culture of water conservation. The regulatory list serves a handful of purposes. It is to enable the regulated community to determine if a plant can be used or not, and enable ADWR to ensure only approved low water use plant materials are used as required by the code and the management plans. They're specific to each AMA, as AMAs differ in elevation, temperature, and precipitation throughout the state. And the lists have been actually incorporated into additional purposes, such as municipalities' codes, HOAs, and other types of resources. They're also incorporated into 4 BMPs in the draft 5th Management Plan non-per capita conservation program. Here's a quick little image of what the current 4th Management Plan low water use drought tolerant plant lists look like for each of the AMAs. Backing into the Phoenix AMA plant lists, AMWA took the original plant list and created our own AMWA plant list to be a resource for residents and business owners. In the days of the ADWR AMA offices, the Ltacs were convened by staff in the AMA offices. However, because AMWA was already relying on members of the green industry to provide input into materials that we were developing, like that plants book, AMWA took on the unique role of convening the Phoenix AMA Ltac and providing recommendations to the department. I think you all might be familiar with Carol Ward, who had helped with that process. The goal of the Ltac, with the recent 4th Management Plan list being published, it was time to bring the list back open, reconvene the Ltac, and discuss all of the plant materials that are on the list. Our goal is to bring together diverse industry representatives from across the AMA who have a vested interest in sustainable plant materials and field experience or familiarity with how plants would perform in rights of ways and medians, in order to provide recommendations to DWR for consideration regarding the content of the Phoenix AMA list. We wanted especially to be able to do this for the 5th Management Plan plant list. Our current Ltac members are really from a diverse background. We have DWR staff, of course, AMWA staff facilitating the meetings, Arizona nursery representatives, wholesalers, folks actually on the ground selling the plants and growing them. We have ADOT experts, municipal representatives, landscape architects, landscapers, and green industry academics from our community colleges and universities. For the timeline and process of the Ltac, we held our first meeting back in December 2020, and we've been moving quickly ever since. We've been meeting monthly to review and evaluate the content of each of the sections, each of the plant categories of the list. We started with the most controversial, which were shrubs and trees. And we're actually meeting tomorrow afternoon to discuss the ground covers. We've been utilizing questionnaires for the Ltac to submit feedback, so we have documentation of everyone's experiences and feedback. Looking at historical documents, the Ltac had used to utilize faxes and paper mail, so we're excited that this process is a little bit faster than that. The Ltac is reviewing and providing recommendations on applications for modifications of the Phoenix AMA low water use plant list as well, as requested by the department. So that image right there I have is a screenshot of what the actual application looks like that folks from the public or regulated community are welcome to submit to the department. On March 11th, a few months ago, DWR reached out to me and the Ltac. They'd received an application for Euphorbia tiracali, more commonly known as fire stick, and wanted the Ltac's recommendation or any feedback they had to submit with their experiences with the plant. So on March 24th, after the Ltac had a chance to review the application, we met to discuss, and they unanimously voted to recommend to the director that Euphorbia tiracali, commonly known as fire stick, be added to the Phoenix AMA low water use plant list. We were excited to hear back on April 19th that the ADWR director responded after reviewing the application supporting documents and the Ltac's recommendation that this plant does meet the criteria needed in order to be added to the Phoenix list. For the Phoenix AMA Ltac, our next steps and kind of continuation of this process, we're going to be continuing to meet monthly to review the content on the plant list. We'll continue to submit comments and recommendations as requested by the Arizona Department of Water Resources, and we're excited to keep moving through this. I also wanted to mention, I completely missed my note on the last slide, but with the fourth management plan low water use plant list, DWR and AMWA had contracted with the Desert Botanical Garden to ensure that all of the plant names on the list were the most current commonly accepted botanical names and common names. So we were able to incorporate that in the fourth management plan list, and we'll continue to make sure that those names are up to date in order to be the most accurate resource for the regulated community. So with that, I won't take up any more of your time. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Any questions for Sam?
Stephen, this is Dave Roberts. I have a question for Sam.
Yes, Dave.
Sam, is there a member of the Desert Botanical Garden or a botanist from the garden on the advisory committee, or do you just contact them when you need advice separately?
We contact them when we need advice, and also a handful of the members who are on the Ltac have previously been employed by the Desert Botanical Garden. I think at least 2 or 3 of them have worked there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
they're involved in the process. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Sam, Stephen, question. How many plants will you review in this process?
We're reviewing all of them on the Phoenix AMA list. So I believe the number is around 500.
Okay.
Mr.
Any other
Chairman,
questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Frank.
Thanks. The addition of the euphorbia raised a question in my mind, not all, but some of the euphorbias are toxic. Their sap is toxic. And I don't know whether that particular euphorbia is toxic. Did you consider toxicity of sap in the list? The reason I ask is because we are limiting the plants that people can use or cities can use, we kind of push them into using the plants on our list. And so it is important that the plants not be toxic. So are you checking for toxicity in the plants on the list?
It is questioned if the plants are toxic. A pro and con of living in the desert is that a lot of desert adapted plants do have some level of toxicity to them. For the Phoenix AMA plant list, we're looking at the regulatory purpose of the list, which is strictly determining if the plant will perform and do well being landscaped in a median or public right of way, and if it's low water use and will hold up to our environment. So we do note that this plant can be toxic. Unfortunately, a lot of desert plants are toxic.
And it's your business, but people, children, animals are going to come in contact with the plants in a right of way, and there's toxicity is a degree situation. There are some plants that are only toxic to allergic individuals. There's some other plants that are really pretty toxic, as in they could put you in the hospital. I would assume that we pay some little attention to that because, in fact, because we're limiting the plants in the right of way to the ones on our list, we are going to be, in a sense, coercing people to use these plants. So I just presume we have some consideration of the toxicity as far as putting plants on the list. It's your business. I just shared that idea with you.
It is completely a fair point. We wanted to make sure that the list was helpful and specific for the regulated community, but not so confining that they're unable to move forward with their plans. We want to be able to trust that the private community, the landscape architects, the designers, are selecting the proper plant for the proper location. So we leave that up to them, so the department's not liable for toxicity, etc.
I'm ready to drop this. However, from a city perspective, all over town, these plants on this list will be planted in the right of way. And in many cases, the right of way where they're planted is right next to the sidewalk where people will be walking their dog or walking with their children. So there is a fairly high likelihood that people will be in close proximity. But again, I leave it in your hands and you can handle it as you see best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll be sure to let the Ltac know tomorrow at our meeting, and have conversations with the department on how they consider that for the regulatory list.
Very good. Any other questions?
This is Bob Lynch. Can you hear me?
Yes, Bob.
Quick question. In working with the list, are you separating out things that are native from things that are not? That is, things that probably grow around here in the county parks, or just out out in your backyard or out in the desert next to you, from those that are imports. I mean, basically, you can kill yourself by eating almost anything that grows in our desert if you want to. Toxicity is a serious business, and there are different ways of becoming a victim to toxicity. Some of them require ingestion and some don't. And it just seems to me that at least those of us who grew up here got told pretty early on, don't eat anything, not edible. But some plants, if you touch them, you got a problem. So it seems to me that this is a topic that deserves some further discussion.
Does the staff have any suggestions on how to proceed through this to reach a conclusion?
I think we, like Sam said, there's a meeting tomorrow, so we'll begin some discussions there and see where the Ltac ends up. And we can report back.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah, sorry. Said, as Sam said, there's an Ltac meeting tomorrow. So we'll bring it up there and begin the discussion, and then we can report back if you like where we end up from that.
Well, I think it's worth bringing some kind of resolution back, given that a council member has raised the question, staff and others have discussed it. And I think we need to have a resolution that the director and legal and anybody else that needs to could speak to this.
Sure.
And be consistent.
We will bring that to the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Bob Lynch again. One of the things that you can collect in the way of data is the number of incidents in which a particular plant has, in fact, caused a problem with a human. And those records are kept, and you know, some toxic plants aren't a problem, either because they don't look edible or they don't look attractive, or you really have to ingest them to have a problem. And some, if you brush up against them, you get a problem, like poison ivy or poison oak or poison sumac.
So Bob, can you and staff continue this part of your discussion and help us come up with a way to make this work?
You talking to me?
Yes.
Oh, didn't realize I'm volunteering for anything, but
Well, work with staff to figure out if there's a way to for somebody to come to a way to respond to this. So it isn't one of those where somebody brought up an issue but nobody followed up on it. And
well, if I can help, I will. I'd be happy to. Yeah.
And that's all I'm asking staff to do, is ask you for a little assistance with a little more detail about your ideas.
Well, pick up a copy of Desert Gardening.
Well, that's more than I knew. Okay. Staff, can you follow up with him
Yes, we will.
and with Sam?
Yeah.
Okay. So can we move on to the next subject?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Melissa is next, Melissa Sykes from UWR. She'll be providing an update on water management assistance program activities and introduce 2 requests for funding.
Welcome, Melissa.
And she's going to scoot a little closer to the microphone so you can hear us a little bit better.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, council members and members of the public. I'll be going over the Water Management Assistance Program fund balance, the status of the DCP groundwater conservation grants, and I'm going to introduce the WMAP projects that are requesting renewal. At our previous meeting, we introduced the 2021 withdrawal fees, and which are reflected in this table here. Below this table is a breakdown of the current WMAP funds. The current balance is $931,485, but we have a $600,785 that are committed currently to current projects, which leaves us with a remaining balance of $330,700. If we do decide to renew the 2 projects that are for renewal, the Water Conservation Management Program for $216,000 and Water Use It Wisely for $100,000, that will leave us with a remaining balance of $14,700. We expect to collect about $190,000 next year, like we did this year in 2020. And there are no upcoming projects that will be seeking renewal for spring, so we should have a replenished fund at that point for the upcoming renewal consideration for Arizona Project Wet. Their contract expires in November of 2022. To our next page. The projects that are currently funded with the WMAP funds are the Smartscape Professional Landscape Training Program with a remaining balance of $15,000. And as a reminder, this program was also renewed recently in our last meeting for $93,930. The Water Conservation Management Program that has a remaining balance of $58,000. The Water Loss Technical Assistance Program with a remaining balance of $120,000. The Xeriscape Demonstration Garden with a remaining balance of $75,000, and the Residential Water Use Phase 2 project for $139,000. And finally, Arizona Project Wet with a remaining balance of $67,500. And we have our two projects for renewal here. The Water Conservation Management Program that will be requesting $216,000, and a renewal request for Water Use It Wisely that will request $100,000. And as a status for the Smartscape Professional Landscape Training contract, renewal of that contract, we are awaiting signatures, but the contract is drafted at this point. For an update for the groundwater conservation grant, since we last met, the ESSER Design Groundwater Video Series project and the leak detection equipment replacement project for Arizona Water Company have both been executed. We're still in the drafting phase for the Northern Avenue Lateral Surface Water Capacity Restoration project for Maricopa Water District and the EPCOR Reclaim Waterline project. So we're almost there with those two. Before I move on, are there any questions regarding the WMAP funds or the groundwater conservation projects?
Any questions?
Stephen, this is Dave Roberts again. I have a question.
Okay, Dave.
Melissa, can you move back up higher on the screen there? So the funds that are still remaining that have not been spent in the projects that are funded, what is the timeline in which they can use those funds?
Throughout the end of their contract.
Which goes, so let's take the Water Conservation Management Program. It still has $58,000 left. When does that contract expire?
That contract expires in October of this year.
So, okay, so the contract proposal, or the proposal that we're going to hear about soon for $216,000, that won't start until October of this year and run later on, or how will that work?
Yes, so if they collect their final payment before the contract ends in October, then we can start it sooner. But theoretically, yes, we would wait until the end of that contracting period before we begin the next one.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, Melissa, go ahead.
Thank you. So now we'll go ahead and get started with the renewal presentations. First up, we have Scott Lougheed presenting on and requesting renewal for the Water Conservation Management Program. And after, we have Donna DeFrancesco with the City of Mesa, Jason Hackett and Cassie Bruner with Happy presenting on and requesting renewal for Water Use It Wisely. So we'll start with Scott. Scott, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. My name is Scott Lougheed. I'm the chairman of the East Maricopa Natural Resource Conservation District. I appreciate you having us today. And the gentleman that runs our program is on his honeymoon, so he would normally be here presenting this, but I get stuck reading his notes, unfortunately. The Water Conservation Management Program, in cooperation with the East Maricopa Natural Resource Conservation District, provides technical irrigation water management services to water users in the Phoenix AMA, conserving water and helping sustain agriculture in central Arizona by maximizing irrigation efficiencies. The WCMP works with an average of 15 growers a year. Technical irrigation services are offered on various irrigation systems, including subsurface, drip, sprinklers, and flood. Chris Redmond, the WCMP's irrigation specialist, has been in the industry for over 20 years as a certified irrigation auditor and Arizona irrigation contractor. Chris's experience and education more than qualify him to operate the WCMP's, but it's his passion to help growers that makes him a valuable asset to them, the industry, and the community. According to cooperator estimates, the WCMP positively impacted over 22,485 acres in 2020. These estimates also include as much as 8,275 acre feet of water, approximately $277,500 being saved. Even with the challenges posed by the pandemic, the WCMP is on track to reach the goal, and this year possibly surpass it. Annually, the WCMP conducts 40 standard irrigation system evaluations, 20 technical and/or BMP services, and 4 outreach promotional activities. Standard evaluations assess various technical components, managerial strategies of an irrigation system. Ultimately, a determination of the irrigation efficiency for a system is established when plausible strategies for improvement are developed and discussed with the grower. A single standard evaluation requires approximately 36 man-hours to complete. The technical services are designed to aid growers with a specific aspect of irrigation water management. Requests for assistance may include flow rate measurements, determination of upcoming irrigations, ag BMP enrollment, to list a few. Standard evaluations and technical services have helped conserve enough water to annually accommodate approximately 20,500 Arizona households, or 82,000 people. The WCMP attempts to reach the public as well as maintain contact with cooperators through various outreach and promotional activities. The WCMP has hosted workshops that have included topics such as subsurface drip irrigation technologies management, minimum tillage practices, and its effect on IWM and the Ag BMP program. The USDA and RCS, as well as representatives from international equipment and materials manufacturers, have participated in workshops. The WCMP also attempts to participate in public functions or field days where facts about water usage, importance of water conservation, and introduction to the WCMP and its affiliation with the Conservation District and the Department of Water Resources are provided in print media as well as personal interaction. Newsletters are also utilized to reach future and past program coordinators or cooperators to address IWM topics such as irrigation scheduling methods, determining irrigation application amounts via the irrigator's formula. Various methods are used throughout the year to educate water users and promote the WCMP, its role in the community, the Arizona Department of Water Resources, and the East Maricopa NRCD. Over the years, the WCMP has realized there are components of IWM that most cooperators benefit receiving assistance with between the various irrigation systems and management styles. Irrigation scheduling is a big component of irrigation water management that most water managers regularly request assistance with and realize substantial benefits. Assisting cooperators with determining a target amount of water to apply and estimating an irrigation time goal to apply the specific amount of water to is another common aspect of IWM that has a positive impact for cooperators. When a grower knows when to start an irrigation event, knows how much water is needed to refill the root zone, has a target irrigation time to work towards to apply that amount of water, the irrigation efficiency has the greatest potential to improve. Awareness is another commonality among program cooperators. The technical information included in standard irrigation evaluation reports provided a starting point to improve irrigation efficiency through the implementation of practical recommended adjustments from the WCMP. Regardless of what type of irrigation system an operation utilizes or how a system is managed, there are common aspects of IWM between them all that the WCMP has been able to help with improved irrigation efficiencies. The WCMP is always scheduling standard evaluations and technical or BMP services This is an ongoing process. The 2020 annual report will be submitted to ADWR by October 31st. Currently, the WCMP is planning and coordinating an Ag BMP workshop that will reintroduce the program to growers, the application process, and changes to the program that may affect current enrollees. Additionally, the WCMP is developing a newsletter about calculating irrigation applications and updating and promoting the WCMP webpage. It can be found at East Maricopa National Resource Conservation.org/conservation-efforts/water-conservation-management program. Again, Chris apologizes he can't be here. He's on his honeymoon. He invites anyone with questions to contact him directly at cfredman75@outlook.com or 480-466-2968. And thank you very much for allowing me to present.
Thank you, Scott. Is there any questions at this time of anyone?
Steve, this is Dave again. I have a question.
Yes, Dave.
Scott, I don't know if you can answer this, but since you all are from the East Maricopa NRCD, I take it that most of your work is in the East Valley or the eastern part of the AMA. Do you also work or have a program in the western part of the AMA? Or do you cover all the entire AMA?
We've been covering the whole AMA. We have farmers on both sides of the valley.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Frank Fairbanks. This is a great program and we've supported it for many years. And I just would want to make sure that that it's being used. Do we keep data that demonstrates the number of farms or people that are able to utilize the system? This is absolutely excellent program that I support, but it is important that this good stuff gets out and is received and used by, I'll use the word farmer, although I think a lot of people are a lot more sophisticated than what we think of farmer.
Chris has most of that information, and he will be, it's included in his report. Unfortunately, I don't have that report in front of me at the moment, but I do concur that the information it needs to get out. We probably need to do a little better job of reaching more people, but we've done a pretty good job so far with the pandemic. Everybody being afraid to get out and see anybody. That kind of halted a little progress this year, but we have several things in the works to get out and meet with people, and it's not only just farmers. We're also meeting with inner city people that are taking they're growing gardens and things like that, and we're working with them on proper drip systems and stuff on how to save water.
Thank you. That's excellent.
Good reports, guys. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I had a question for Mr. Lougheed. Hey, Scott, good to see you.
Thank you.
You had a savings number in there. It was a pretty big number. Could you repeat that?
Is this Stephen Bales?
Yeah, the unsophisticated farmer from Buckeye. Yes. Familiar with NRCS.
Just wanted for the record.
We're impacting, so far in 2020, we impacted 22,485 acres with a savings of $277,500 in water savings, 8,275 acre feet of water.
That's great, Scott. And I'm glad I asked because that was a bigger number than I wrote down. Way to go. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Anything further, Scott?
That's all I've got today. I appreciate we appreciate your consideration.
Absolutely. Okay, turn it back to staff.
So, Mr. Chair, you have a couple options here. You can have a discussion and take action on these projects individually, or wait until after the Water Use It Wisely group has also presented. Which would you prefer?
Council members, any comments?
However you want to do it, Stephen. I think
Or all the
Frank,
staff?
I think Frank, Stephen, and I are ready to vote now. I'm not sure about Rory.
I'm ready.
I'm ready if you're ready.
Okay, who would like to
Motion?
make a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve this, the Water Conservation Management Program as discussed.
Okay,
Second by Bagels.
Frank made the motion. Who made the second?
Bales.
Fails. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the recommended project, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Is there any other motions necessary, staff?
Not for this one. Melissa will
Okay.
introduce the Water Use It Wisely group now.
Alrighty, so what's our next step?
So next we'll hear a presentation from Donna DeFrancesco from the City of Mesa and Jason Hackett and Cassie Bruner from Happy presenting on Water Use It Wisely.
Great. Donna, you ready?
If you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Testing 1, 2. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Very good.
All right. I have the little button pushed. I apologize. I unmuted, but that wasn't working. Very good. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I'm Donna DeFrancesco with the City of Mesa. It's great to be here with ADWR staff and the GUAC and the public who are here in attendance. We are here today to ask for the GUAC's recommendations in voting, I guess, to recommend to the director, Tom Bushatsky, to renew another 2 years of support for the Water Use It Wisely campaign for $100,000. This is our biennial reunion. You know, it's this year, even though we're not seeing everybody in person, it's after the year we had between the pandemic and the horrific hot, dry summer that we had. It's just great to see everybody here. So it's great to be here. I realize that we do have a couple of new members on the GUAC, so I want to go through a little bit of the history of the program. Melissa, are you doing slides for me? Is there someone else there on staff doing that, or?
Kennedy will be advancing your slides.
Okay, so just be ready. I'm just going to say next, and we're going to be going through, especially my portion, very quickly, because I just want to do that very quick review of Water Use It Wisely. So go ahead, get started. And we will dive in. And like I said, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the past. We are going to let you know a lot about what we did, especially in the past year. We do provide reports at the end of each year of all our accomplishments, and those are available for you if you need them. And then I'm not even going to tell you about the future here. I'm going to wait. You got to wait and see because it's a big surprise. Go ahead, next. The campaign did start in 1999, and it was created for the City of Mesa, the Water Use It Wisely campaign. At the time, of course, as many of you know, we were really starting to really experience the beginning of this very extended drought period that we're in right now. And we knew right away we wanted to open it up and make this a regional program. And that's what we did. Right away, ADWR did provide some of these funds to get us started, and it was a really great jump start for us. The GUAC funds did drop out for a short period of time, but you rejoined back in 2017, and we really appreciate you being a part of this. And in 2019, we did have another agency working with us, Park & Co, for many, many years. It was a lot of reasons for that because we were kind of a partnership on this program, but we did go out with an RFP and hired a new agency on board in 2019. And that's why they're going to be joining us today in just a little bit. Go ahead, next slide. So, of course, our mission is to keep water conservation in the forefront of people's minds because, again, most people do take water for granted. I keep telling our water supply people, you make it too easy. The tap turns on, water comes out, we're not really, we do see some of the things that are going on that are real concerning, but for the most part, it's still easy to get water. Go ahead, next slide. And when we did survey the public, they said, don't tell us to save water, show us how. So that's kind of the whole premise of the campaign. Next. What we first created for Water Use It Wisely were these 100 tips, and they featured everyday water saving devices. So for example, you can see the razor on the left, and it's about plugging the sink instead of running the water to rinse your razor and save up to 300 gallons a month. The leaves, the one next to that, shows that leaving the lower branches on your trees and shrubs and letting leaf litter accumulate helps cool the soil and reduce evaporation. So we came up with just these ideas and these really interesting devices that would remind people with everyday use or things that they saw in every day to save water. Next. And the other neat thing about having these tips numbered is that the #1 water saving device is you. So, we are counting on the person taking that responsibility to save water. Next, please. We do know that up to 70% of our water use is outdoors, and that is one of the big reasons why we do focus so substantially on outdoor water use. We also know that a lot of the indoor water use is being, people are saving more water indoors because of the water saving appliances, water sense labeled products, and so forth, that makes it easy and you don't have to think about it. But outdoors, there's still a lot of things that people need to understand. So, we really talk a lot about how to water properly, the plants to select, xeriscape principles, and so on. Next. So this is just a mini picture of our group. We always try to do a fun picture because when you're doing outreach and this is all creative stuff, and we have to kind of keep that creative bent to it, right? But we have 19 regional campaign partners right now, all contributing funds, of course, passion, expertise. These, to me, is one of the biggest assets of this campaign, that we do have this large group, SRP, CAP, ADWR, of course, AMWA, EPCOR Water, Global Water, and all these municipalities that are joining together to get this messaging out there. Next. So again, those are some of the assets. Next. But we have other great assets like our website. So we have very robust 100 pages of information, again, with those tips, outdoor, indoor tips, wateruseitwisely.com, easy to remember. And then we have blogs that we put out just, every week or so, and that goes out in a monthly newsletter, and we have over 30,000 subscribers on that. So we really have a great ability to get information out to the public. Next. Now, of course, when we started 1999, we had a lot of traditional marketing that we did. The definition of media has changed dramatically over these past 20 years. Next. And so we're doing a whole lot more digital, of course. And, this was a good example of, again, this is the followers and so forth we have on our Facebook fans, Twitter followers, Pinterest followers, Instagram. And next, go ahead and pull in, there's some more information. You can see that a lot of these different platforms started after Water Use It Wisely started. So we've done, jumped on board when these things become available, when we know that the public is on these platforms. The other real challenging part and why we hire a company like Happy is because, boy, there's a whole art and science to this stuff too, and really keeping up with the algorithms to keep your, search engine optimization and all that kind of stuff. Next, please. Another asset that we have, go ahead, next, is that we have the opportunity to provide events and things like that. We have displays available that all the partners can use. And one of the things we see when you're fostering sustainable behavior is that the most effective is when you involve direct contact with people and it's carried out at the community level. Now, the beauty of, of course, we can participate in these things with our own municipalities or regional events and things like that. But it's also something we can do with social media. We also can create that direct contact and a community feeling with social media, which is another great thing. Next. And again, just more examples of events that we've participated in: Green Planet Festival, of course, the SRP Water Conservation Expo. Next. And even Local First Arizona has a Fall Fest that we've participated in for 3 years. Again, this has been a great partnership with us with Local First Arizona to get in contact and be communicating with local businesses. And then Local First Arizona has an incredible following of the public. So the people that love to support local businesses, we have access to that audience as well. Next. More assets. Next. So one of the things we did back in 2005 was just this special, it was a big promotion we did with Lowe's specifically. And we decided we wanted something that was, big and bold and it would get people's attention. So we created this water tower, and it shows how much water is used each day by each person in the Phoenix metropolitan area. This first design had 136 1-gallon jugs. Go ahead, next. And what happened is we were trying to figure out what to do with that display, and somebody said, let's just tear it down, I guess, and throw it away, but recycle. But anyway, we decided, no, we should use this, and we came up with the idea to have it travel around to the different partners, to different partner sites. Here it is at the lobby at the MWA building. We thrilled when Melissa worked with us to get this in the state capitol. So that was just amazing, and to get it in front of people's eyes. But we have it at libraries, city halls. Next. And has been reduced, by the way, to 120 gallons because we did find that we were seeing reductions in use of water, which we, of course, want to take most of the credit for that. Next, please. And of course, another asset there is Waindrop. He was in the last picture. Go ahead with Waindrop, because Waindrop, again, is just another great piece of this campaign that just gives us an ability to just go beyond and crazy and fun. And so Waindrop here is Your Life A to Z. Next. When we get on television with interviews, he goes out to schools. He can help promote just about anything. Go ahead, next. And he just gets out there. Even at the Buckeye Veterans Day Parade back in November 2019 before COVID. So that kind of gives you a background of where we've been. There's been so much we've done, but I want to let you hear what we've done just in this past year. And I'm going to let Jason and Cassie start up.
All right, we'll take it over from the president. So thank you, Donna. Just so the group knows, I cannot talk as quickly as Donna, but I will do my best to get through this presentation, the rest of the presentation, as fast as possible. Melissa, if you want to click to the next slide, please. So when we came in, we inherited just a great legacy brand that has been doing an incredible amount for our community in terms of water conservation and getting that word out there. The way we felt that we could really improve what's been done for the past 20 years is create more relevancy. It doesn't matter how great and good our content is and how varied it is, if it's not connecting with people, no one's going to care. And so what we really try to do, as we came into this new brand or this new organization is, what are some strategies that we can incorporate to really make sure that we have an updated look and feel, we have updated messaging, we're still communicating the great water saving tips, the importance of water conservation, but doing it maybe in new and fresh ways that are not only targeting our generation of water conservationists, but the next generation of water conservationists. So we're going to take you through, 4 quick highlights of the year. We've done a lot more than this, and some of these, like the research, the newsletter, the tip tank, and some of the things that you're about to see are long initiatives. They took months and months and months and months, but we'll kind of give you a high-level overview. So if you want to click it to the next, Melissa, please. One of the things we did right off the bat, so we inherited this campaign. The fiscal year, as everyone knows, runs from July through June. So as we shot off into the summer months, we thought it would be an interesting way to engage more consumers is do a monsoon-triggered campaign. So when the monsoons came, we had monsoon-specific messaging and advertising on our social media platforms to let the people know, we know it's raining right now. We have a message that tells you it's raining right now. So turn off your sprinklers, save some money with some great water-saving messages, and of course, always driving people back to our website. And the only frustrating part about this campaign, as we know, in the past 2 summers, our campaign has only run 4 times because we've really only had about 4 days worth of monsoons. But in those short amount of times, it's received over 69,000 impressions and more than 1,000 clicks, and the expenditure has been minimal.
Very minimal, at least only $500 per summer.
So again, it's staying relevant with our target audiences. Click, please. Next, please. But of course, when we come into any campaign, into any new piece of business, we don't want to guess at what's appropriate. We want to really reach out to our community and get their perspectives. So we did a huge research initiative that included both qualitative and quantitative research, the qualitative was 4 focus groups, and the quantitative, we reached out to 600 respondents, local residents, to really get a better grasp of what current perceptions are of water conservation. Do they know our brand? Do they understand the messaging? Do they understand what our objectives are? What can we do to better communicate who we are and to really change their daily habits? You want to click to the next, please, Melissa?
Real quick, I just want to talk about the research just really fast. When we did the survey of 600 residents that was sent out to those here in the Phoenix area, in the metro area, and half of the respondents mentioned that they think Arizona was going to experience a drastic shortage within the next 10 years. And so that was the kind of education that Arizona residents were receiving.
You know, and a lot of people understood the importance and they liked the idea of water saving tips, but they didn't really understand quite like why they should be saving water and how Arizona's water situation is a lot different than many states throughout the nation. So again, a lot of these insights and this input from our community, we are incorporating into all the initiatives moving forward.
Next, we did a little bit of a newsletter makeover. Sorry, thank you. Our analytics showed in the current and this before picture that readers were really getting choice fatigue. They were clicking all over this newsletter. They weren't getting to the right pages. So what we did here at Happy in the first year, we reduced down the newsletter and made it a lot simpler to read, easy to gain access. We still continue to drop in 30,000 inboxes every month, but it really drives our readers to our website to educate and motivate them to conserve water around their homes. Next, please.
Tip Tank. One of our most popular web pages on our current website is Tip Tank, and that's what's awesome about that is it's really educating kids on water conservation. The problem with the current Tip Tank game we had was it was based in Flash, which Flash, if you know it, is going away and didn't work on a lot of devices. So we updated the Tip Tank to make sure it works across platform. It doesn't matter what sort of computer you have, smartphone you have, tablet you have, it works on all devices. And it also allowed us to incorporate some more Arizona water saving facts and facts about Arizona water in general.
By doing this, we increased page views 43%, and we also increased an average time on site. The average time somebody plays Tip Tank now is almost 3 minutes. Next page.
And then, of course, we every year we've been doing a spring campaign, and 2 springs ago we actually we focused on it a little bit more with new colors, a new microsite to really drive home the importance of landscaping. It's that time of year where people start transitioning outside a little bit more, and we wanted, again, this is all about being relevant, having relevant messages to consumers at times when they're thinking about landscaping, thinking about gardening and doing things throughout their yard. What's interesting about when this campaign launched is that's right when COVID hit. So we had to stop the campaign after it launched for about a week, and we pivoted, which I know is a very overused word for 2020, pivoted just a little bit to incorporate some new strategies that, again, talking about that relevancy. One thing that we did is we actually reached out to local nurseries who had curbside plant delivery. And we put a list of those nurseries on the site. So people who are already pent up at home, they now have something to do on the property at the home, and now they could safely plant new plants in their gardens.
In just over 2 months, we reached well over 20 million impressions, meaning our ads were delivered over 20 million times and seen over 20 million times. We also had 96,000 clicks to the Water Plant It Wisely website, which is just a great ultimate resource for any spring landscaping and planting needs. It was so, excuse me, it was so successful. We ran it again, changed up some of the messaging to fit fall 2020, and then we ran it again this April 2021.
And in fact, it's still an incredible resource for people. And even when we're not running campaigns, people often go to it to learn about more water saving tips, learn about planting, and it's a big driver to our current website also. So it's another way that we're getting out there with relevant information.
Next slide. So just to go along with this growth and relevancy messaging that we're discussing, the goal of our website right now is to educate and activate change. Since Happy has taken over, we've increased total page views 15%, which is a lot considering we already get over 1,230,000 viewers every year. We've also increased our total sessions on the page 29%. And the objective of social media is to get users engaged with our branding. And so our Instagram followers from August 2020 to May 2021 has increased over 1,000 people. Next, please.
And then the future. So we'll give you a sneak peek at some really big, exciting things that are about to happen. And it's funny, if this meeting was a month later, we could show you a completely new website, a completely new campaign. But in the meantime, we'll give you some teases as to what's to come. Next, please. So looking forward, again, talking about the relevancy, we through the research, we discovered that there were some things that people liked about our logo and some things that people didn't like about our logo. So we spent about, I think, 6 months working with Don and the steering committee, coming up with new logo designs and directions that were a little more current and made a little more sense to our residents today. We're also in the process, we're about to launch a brand new website, which takes all the great content from our current website. It streamlines it, it makes it a little more efficient. We've added a lot of new content as well, and it's just a great new experience for water conservation throughout the state of Arizona. And part and parcel to that is a new campaign with a nice new look and feel, vibrant messages, a fun tonality, again, to really communicate the same type of water conservation messaging, but do it in a refreshing new way that really engages people and captures their attention.
It's a great time to be a part of Water Use It Wisely with all the new stuff we have moving forward.
And we'll give you some sneak peeks.
Next slide, please.
So there's the old logo and there's our brand new logo. And I wish we had more time to really kind of take you through that process, but we don't. So we kind of have to leave you with this right now. But anyone who wants to learn more about how we got here, please let us know. We're happy to take you through it.
One of the biggest things we saw from the research was that people really liked the words "Water Use It Wisely." It was almost a call to action in itself. So we wanted to ensure that that was kept bold and significant.
The thing we also wanted to do is when Water Use It Wisely was first formed, they actually used the brand outside the state of Arizona, which we don't want to do anymore. So we thought the outline of Arizona really brought it back to our state. So there's no question that this is a local organization. And that little water graphic is interesting because it demonstrates that it's a water brand, but we don't have a ton of water in Arizona. We have just enough. So it's important to manage it.
Next, please. This is just a really small sneak peek of what the new website is going to look like. It's very relevant. It's conducive to how people use the internet these days. It's super mobile friendly and very much doesn't cut down on content. It just funnels it into more of a conductive way. Next slide.
And then here's a sneak peek at some of our new advertising campaign that will correspond with the launch of the new website and the new logo. Just again, introducing we've always had a fun personality. We don't want to scare people into conserving water on a daily basis. It should be a fun part of their lives. We want them to understand the importance, especially in the state of Arizona, of conserving water. And we want to engage them through a fun personality.
Next slide, please.
And then one last thing before Donna takes it over. It's funny, as an agency, we've got about 20 active clients right now, and all are very busy. I can tell you that no one scrutinizes every penny, every word, every initiative, every objective as much as Donna. And that's not a bad thing. That's a really, really good thing. And the point I'm trying to make is your contributions and your funds over the past 2 years have allowed us to do a lot of these great things, and they are making a difference, and they are in very, very good hands.
Thank you very much, Jason and Cassie. I think that was a compliment. I don't know.
That was a great compliment. That was a good, yeah.
Go ahead. Next, there's another little line that comes on here. As again, you guys are aware, these headlines, actually the headlines on the right are from 2004, headlines on the left are from 2018, and we have headlines today. So we know that, we've had this drought emergency declaration since June 1999. Next, please. And we know that there's things that we need to do but that conserving water should be part of our daily life, no matter what situation we're in. Next, please. And so, to me, these issues we're facing are so big and the outcomes are so important that our strategic relationships, collaborations are just critical. And we're very much in a good place that we can definitely collaborate with so many, like Local First Arizona, that we can really get engaged with the public. Next, please. And I just wanted to let you know too, should any, we realized after seeing, the budget and everything that Melissa presented, the money's tight, but should some money become available, we are definitely poised. We can do more. If there's, a need that we need to get more messaging out, I certainly hope that you'll come to Audio Use It Wisely. We can help you with that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation. And it's amazing that many of us have been around for 20 years and we remember all those little things we worked on and how big they became.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Thank you for that.
So kudos to you and your staff and any other contributors throughout our 2 decades. So, DWR, are there any comments or questions that council would like to ask? Okay, I'll turn it back to DWR staff. What's our next topic?
So you are free to have a discussion and recommend an action. I'll leave that up to you, and then you can let me know when you're ready to move on to the next speaker.
Does anybody have any topics that they wish to discuss?
Well, Stephen, I think on this one, we need to do what we did for the Water Conservation Management Program. We need to make a recommendation to the director about funding this program or continuing to renew funding for this program.
Perfect.
So,
what are you at? You're asking for $100,000 over 2 years?
Yes, that's correct. That's what the funding was the last round. Yes.
Stephen, I'll make a motion to approve that.
This is Frank Fairbanks. I'd second that motion.
There's a motion and a second to fund this project for 2 years, totaling $100,000. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations, great work.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so
appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you very much.
I love the fact that you do the research and you're not guessing, because we have we've experienced some recent guessing in water recently, and we got to get past that. The good research is good, so thank you.
Research should always drive decisions.
Great.
This is where I love your work. Great job.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Back to staff.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Next, we have Brett Eslin from our Colorado River Management Group, and he will be providing an update on Colorado River hydrology. Go ahead, Brett.
Okay, Brett.
Thank you. Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Brett Eslin. I'm a water resources engineer with the Colorado River section at ADWR. Next slide, please. We'll start with a brief overview of the Colorado System Reservoir status as a whole. These numbers were updated on May 20th. So we'll start in the upper basin, beginning in the upper right and moving down. We have Fontenelle at 37%, Flaming Gorge at 85%, Blue Mesa at 41%, followed by Morrow Point at 94%, and Navajo at 63% capacities. Moving over to Lake Powell, current elevation of 3560.3 feet with a storage of 8.3 million acre feet or 34% of capacity. Lake Mead is currently at an elevation of 1075.9. Again, this was from the 20th, and I believe as of this morning it did drop below 1075, but that's a storage of 9.7 million acre feet or 37% of capacity. So if we're looking at the reservoir system as a whole, we're at 25.1 million acre feet in storage, or 41% of the system capacity. And then looking back at this time last year, we were doing better at 30.8 million acre feet, or 50% of capacity, which should not be that much of a surprise with the continuing poor hydrology that we've had for this year. Next slide, please. So here we're looking at the sweet chart, the snow water equivalent for the inflow into Lake Powell. We have the current year 2021 in blue. Again, this is as of May 20th. We were at 55% or 3.4 inches of the median of 6.2 for this time of the year. We're currently at 21% of the peak season median, 16.1 inches. Normally, well, I'll say historically, that occurs usually around the second week of April. However, this year it peaked at March 30th at 89% of median. Now, the snow water equivalent can be a little bit deceiving because although we did have only 11% below median of the 30-year average, the incredibly dry soil conditions did not allow for the runoff to reach the river's tributaries. Also for comparison, I've included 2002 in cyan and 2012 in red. And those are included because out of the worst years for April through July inflows into Powell, 2002 ranks number 1 at under 1 million acre feet. That's followed by 1977, which was at number 2 at 1.2 million acre feet, and then 2012 at number 3, 2.06 million acre feet. The current forecast that came out in the March 24-month study puts us at 2 million acre feet for April through July, which puts us on track to replace the third worst April through July inflow. Unfortunately, mid-May, they released a updated forecast, which will most likely be going into the June model, which hopefully will not go down any further, but that was further reduced to 1.85 million acre feet. And we can go to the next slide, please. So there is a lot of information on this slide. We'll spend a little bit of time on going over everything, but what we're looking at is the historic water year unregulated inflows into Lake Powell. Those are in the blue bar, and then the light blue bar is the April through July inflow. On the right-hand side, you can see the min, most, and max of the May 24-month studies and how they compare. So you can see that right now we're looking at 2021 taking over third place. And that's with the May forecast of 3.64 in the most probable. Now, again, with that forecast for the water year, that has been reduced again to just under 3.5 million acre feet, which should be in the June study. We also have the min probable and the max probable. And then in the NOAA 30-year average, they took 1981 to 2010. That was a 10.3 million acre foot inflow. And in May 4th, yeah, they updated it to the next decadal 30 years. So that would be 91 through 2020. Now, the Bureau of Reclamation has indicated that they're not going to start using those numbers officially until after the water year, but I've included them here just for your reference, that just those 10 years being removed and adding the drier 10 years on at the end, we've reduced our average by 1.2 million acre feet. Next slide, please. So now we're going into the May 24-month study. This also has the April most probable in gold. We have the most probable May in green, and the max in blue and the min in red. We can see that in the most and minimum probables, Lake Powell is projected to release 748 million acre feet in water year 22, and the minimum is only releasing 7.0 million acre feet because of the low elevations. This is not confirmed until the August 24-month study, but for right now, it's what we're projecting. Looking at the end of calendar year 21, the May most probable elevation was 3536.74 feet. And that's down from the April study by over 13 feet. That's just in 1 month of the forecast changing, with a min and max range of 3530 to 3558. Then looking at end of calendar year 22, the May most probable is at 3556.53 feet, down again over 13 feet from the April study, with a min max range of 3517 to 3606. Next slide, please. So now looking at the same studies, but this time focusing on Lake Mead, we have the end of calendar year 21 most probable ending at 1065.82. That's a decrease of 1.5 feet since April, with a min-max range of 1065 to 1067. And for those of you that are paying attention, 1065.82 is below 1075, which puts us into a tier 1 shortage going into calendar year 22. Again, that's not confirmed until August, but that is what's being projected. Then looking at end of calendar year 22, we have the most probable elevation of Lake Mead at 1048.83, with a min-max range of 1045 to 1062. And at that elevation, we are below the 1050 trigger for Lake Mead, which puts us into a tier 2A shortage going into calendar year 23. And the next slide, please. So when you're looking at the 24-month studies, you have the same amount of water being released from Lake Powell into Lake Mead. However, you have a drop in elevation in Lake Mead. That's from the intervening flows in between Glen Canyon and Hoover Dams. Now you can see that for this water year, we have not been at average in a single month. And even if we finish off the rest of the water year or projected calendar year with the average volumes, we're only going to be 73% for the water year, or 80% for the calendar year of side inflows. It's just another reference point of why our elevations are dropping and we're just not getting any relief. Next slide, please. So over the past few years, in January, April, and August, it used to only be twice a year, but now they're doing it 3 times. The Bureau produces a 5-year probability table, and this is based on the April study, looking at Lake Powell. So based on the April forecast, we're going to be operating in the mid-elevation release tier, releasing 748 next year. It's a 91% chance of that. That's an increase of 15% since the January table. We have a 59% chance of back-to-back, that's water year 22 and 23, 748 releases in the stress test hydrology, and a 46% chance of back-to-backs in the full hydrology. The mid-elevation release tier is also the most likely operating tier in 2023, where the projection shows a 65% chance of operating in that tier in the stress test hydrology. That's an increase of 5% since January. And if this year gets any worse, like 2002, which is currently the worst on record, there is a chance that we end our water year with Lake Powell below 3525, and we'll be operating in the lower elevation balancing tier for water year 22. Hopefully that will not happen. Next slide, please. So now looking at the same probability table, this time for Lake Mead, there's a 97% chance of shortage calendar year 22, should not be surprised based on the 24-month studies. The chance of a shortage in 2023 to 2025 exceeds 75% in every year for both the full and stress test hydrology. There is a greater than 90% chance of shortage in 2023 in both hydrology scenarios. The chances of a level 2 or level 3 shortage increased from 1 to 10% in years 2023 through 2025 in both the full and stress test hydrology compared to the January model. The first projected level 2 shortage is in 2023, and the chance of a level 2 shortage in 2024 increased from 50 to 60% in the stress test hydrology. There is now a 36 to 44% chance that Lake Mead will fall below 1025 in any month in 2024 or 2025 in the stress test hydrology. In both the full and stress test hydrology, there is less than a 4% chance of falling to an elevation below 1,000 feet in any month in 2024. Next slide, please. So with that, I can take any questions, and then I've also included some reference websites if you want to track the progress of how everything is performing for the year, or you can just wait until I give my next presentation for an update.
Thank you, Brett. Questions from council members? Comments? Anyone in the audience that has a question or comment?
Chairman, this is Steve Bales.
Yes.
Brett, all the Aggies were aware of this gloomy news you delivered. But do you have a forecast for the monsoon in the basin area? What's it looking like for this summer?
In the drought meeting that we had on, I can't remember if it was March or April, the state climatologist had spoken about that, and it was projected that while it's possible, it's most likely going to be another dry monsoon season, possibly another non-soon season, since that term is being used now.
Yeah, I was afraid you're going to say that, but that's information I'm reading too, unfortunately. But thanks.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, we have a question in the chat box from Simone.
Can you speak up? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So we have a question in the chat box from Simone. She wants to know, how do these April forecasted numbers compare to the more recent shortage probabilities in the May 24-month study?
So the April study that are the 5-year tables are based off of, that's using a model, it's CRSS, CRIMS, MTOM. That is a probabilistic model that looks out until 2060 using multiple hydrology scenarios. It does an index sequential method of calculating how it would look like if we used historic values and ran them through currently. The difference is that the 24-month studies are deterministic. They use forecasts from NOAA as well as the ESP from the Forecast Center, Colorado River Basin Forecast Center. And those are only for 2 years. They show a more probable chance of what's going to happen because they only go out for the 2 years. But that also is a, when you're looking at the min and max, they're talking about 10th percentiles and 90th percentiles of the forecast. So that's the main difference. It's just that you're looking at probabilistic versus deterministic, but based on what happens between April and August, if these forecasts are still going down, then come August when the new table comes out, the probabilities will be much higher.
Any other questions from any of the audience?
No, Mr. Chair, that's it.
I'm sorry.
No, that was the only question from the audience.
Okay.
All right, so if the council would like to move on, we have John Riggins, our statewide planning manager at ADWR, and he will provide you with an update on the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council, their activities and progress.
Okay, John.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. For the record, my name is John Riggins, and I am the statewide planning manager for the Department of Water Resources. And this afternoon, I'll be providing you an update on the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council activities. I would also like to introduce Jenna Norris. Jenna will be coordinating the council and the committee meetings for the department, and will also be assisting with subsequent updates to this council and to the other GUACs. Next slide, please.
Welcome.
So I'm sure by now you are all familiar with the Governor's Water Council and its committees, but just as a refresher and an update for the new council members, I'll just give a quick background and summary of the council and the committees. The council is made up of 43 individuals from across the state appointed by the governor. The council is chaired by the director of the Department of Water Resources. The council may form committees, and the council and committee meetings are all open to the public. Committees work to identify and discuss issues and develop, evaluate, and prioritize recommendations for the council to consider. Staffing and technical support for the council and the committees is provided by ADWR, and the council meets quarterly. The committees, there are 4 active committees and 2 subcommittees. The post-2025 Active Management Areas Committee identifies challenges within the AMAs and generates strategies and solutions beyond the year 2025. The non-AMA Groundwater Committee addresses groundwater issues outside of the state's AMAs. The Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee identifies and explores methods for augmenting water supplies in Arizona, and also has a subcommittee, the Water Storage Site Subcommittee, which addresses a reporting and guide that is being drafted for water storage site potential around the state of Arizona. The Desalination Committee evaluates and overcomes barriers to desalination projects and identifies opportunities to assist in developing potential projects. And they also have a subcommittee, the Legal and Regulatory Subcommittee for that. Next slide, please. So the full council last met on March 19th of this year. The agenda included an overview of the outline for the 2020-2021 council annual report. Presentation on the updates for the 5th management plan was also given, and updates from the committees were presented back to the council on their recent meetings and activities. The next council meeting will be on June 17th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we'll have an updated meeting information and agendas posted to our meeting information website as they become available. And I've included a link to our meeting webpage there at the bottom of this slide. And there's also one at the last slide with our contact information. The meetings are still being held virtually, which has provided an opportunity for greater stakeholder participation in the online committee meetings and attendance at our council meetings. So next, I'll update you on the council's committees and their activities, starting with the post-2025 AMAs committee. They met last this February and discussed the issue briefs, which described 6 interrelated water management issues identified and discussed by the committee over the course of more than a year. The committee co-chairs presented a final package of the issue briefs to the council at the March 19th council meeting. There were concerns raised by some of the committee participants who felt the papers didn't capture the perspective on the issues, and they provided a letter detailing their concerns that was appended to the issue briefs, and that is available on the department's website under the post-2025 AMAs committee webpage. The co-chairs will present a plan for moving forward to the council at the next council meeting on June 17th. And the next committee meeting is scheduled for June 22nd of this year at 1 p.m. That will also be held virtually. The non-AMA Groundwater Committee last met in December of 2020 and had a presentation by the department's chief counsel on irrigation non-expansion areas, as well as a presentation by Representative Regina Cobb on introduced legislation for establishing rural groundwater management areas. The committee discussed the two types of authorities, but no consensus on the subjects were reached by the committee. The next committee meeting has not been scheduled. The Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee, the committee met last on March 12th and heard presentations from committee members on various studies related to water importation. These studies included the binational desalination and transbasin diversion augmentation to move water from the Missouri or Mississippi rivers to offset Colorado River diversions to the Front Range. The Storage Sites Subcommittee, which is a subcommittee of the Long-Term Water Augmentation Committee, met in February of 2021, and department staff will continue to work with the subcommittee and the full committee to complete the draft guide, the water storage sites draft guide, and are working with the Arizona State Land Department to complete and finalize the water storage site report. And finally, the Desalination Committee last met March 25th of 2021. Henry Day of APS is the new Desalination Committee chair. At that meeting, they reviewed the draft legal and regulatory subcommittee background and summary of discussion report, and that is also available on our website, and I've provided a link to that report as well on the slide. And the next meeting for the Desal Committee is yet to be determined. Next slide. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you again, Mr. Chair and council members, for allowing me to provide an overview of the Governor's Water Council and committee activities. Please let me know if you have any questions. Jenna and I are always available to assist with any questions or comments regarding the Governor's Water Council. And I would also recommend reviewing any information. All of the meetings for the council and the committees have been reported, and there's information and recordings available on the committee websites and on our council webpage. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Jenna. Council members, any questions, comments that you would like to raise at this time?
Thank you for the presentation.
Anybody in the audience that wishes to have a question, comment?
We have nothing in the chat box, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so are we ready to move on to the next topic?
Yes, so next we have Maggie Martin from our management plans team, and she will provide an update on the 5th management plan work group and subgroup activities.
Welcome, Maggie.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chairman Cleveland and members of the council. My name is Maggie Martin. I'm a management plan specialist working at ADWR on the management plans team. And today I'll be providing status updates on the 5th management plans, and we'll be providing a high-level overview of the various conservation program proposals. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So when developing and updating the conservation programs, this is the statute that we are working under, which states that each plan for each AMA should include a continuing mandatory conservation program and that they should be designed to reduce withdrawals of groundwater. Next slide, please. So we started the management plans work group process in 2019. We've been working since then to analyze and develop the programs for the 5th management plans. We intended to wrap up the development phase at the end of 2020, but we are continuing as needed and hoping to finalize the last details of the program soon. Our intent was to spend the bulk of this year, 2021, in the drafting phase and actually writing those 5 5th management plans, which staff is currently deep in the process of and making good progress on. We are writing concepts into legal language and will be seeking feedback from GUACs and the stakeholder community regarding customization. We will publish drafts in early 2022 and plan to adopt all 5 by the end of that year so that conservation programs will become effective on January 1st, 2025. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we are in the midst of drafting those 5th management plans right now. The structure of the conservation programs in those management plans will largely match across the AMAs, but we are taking time to reach out and seek feedback regarding customization from GUACs and local stakeholders. Additionally, beyond that customization, the management plans work group subgroup meetings will be reconvened as we have draft regulatory language ready and available. Through this process, there will be many opportunities for comment and input in development, drafting, and in adoption. Next slide, please. So now I'll give a sort of summary overview of the various conservation program proposals. Staff worked with the Agricultural BMP Advisory Committee through multiple meetings to develop recommendations for the BMP program in the 5th management plans. The committee recommended updates to the list of approved practices and points targets. On the list of approved BMPs, 9 new BMPs and 13 changes to existing BMPs were recommended. These updates were based on changes in technology and agricultural practices, the inclusion of maintenance, and clarification of language. A substitute practice BMP was also recommended in each category. In recognition of a need for a way to add new BMPs to the approved list as technology develops, a procedure for adding new BMPs to the approved list was also included. A redline version of all the changes is available on the link on the slide and on the BMP Advisory Committee website. The committee also recommended changes to the minimum points target in 3 categories, which reflects an increase in conservation in the 5 MPs. There was no change to the total points required to participate in the program, so that remained at 12. ADWR's intent is to include both of these as recommended by the BMP committee into the regulatory language of the 5th management plan. Next slide, please, Kennedy. All right, the Integrative Farm Program is a new agricultural conservation program developed as an sort of alternative to the base and BMP programs. This program is voluntary. It is an allotment-based program that would allow multiple IGFRs to be combined under one reporting umbrella. This is similar to how irrigation grandfathered rights can report together in the BMP program, but instead of implementing BMPs, the allotments from participating rights under the same owner operator could be combined, and that owner operator could use the water anywhere on the combined footprint. The total allotment would have a cut to the aquifer or a % reduction of that total combined allotment. The program is a middle program between the base and BMP programs. It reduces the administrative burden of having to report and exchange flex credits on each individual right as in the base program, but does not require the implementation and reporting on individual BMPs as in the BMP program. Instead, the Integrated Farm Program has the ease of an allotment-based program and the administrative benefit of the BMP program. The Integrated Farm Program proposal was released earlier this month and presented at our last subgroup meeting. The proposal is available on the link on the slide and on the 5MP concepts page, but we will note that there are still a couple of details to work out here, and we are continuing to accept feedback on this proposal. Next slide, please, Kennedy. All right, the Municipal Non-Per Capita Conservation Program is a BMP-based program. Municipal providers are required to implement a number of BMP points determined by their service connections. In the 5MP proposal, we adjusted the number of services connections by tier and also added an additional tier so that providers would be more evenly distributed across the tiers. We also included the number of BMP points required per tier and added a requirement that BMP points must be earned from a minimum number of categories to increase the diversity of the BMPs being implemented. We added a new planning category, which contains BMPs related to integrated water and land use planning and other types of long-range planning activities. Lastly, we adjusted many of the BMPs implementation and reporting requirements to collect more quantitative data that can be used to determine whether a BMP is effectively conserving water. Next slide, please. The Municipal GPCD program is an allotment-based conservation program. The 5MP GPCD requirement calculations maintains the same default minimum and maximum structure seen in the 4MP, but the calculations were updated to use rolling averages in order to provide more realistic requirements that still result in groundwater conservation. To ensure the 5MP proposal would result in greater conservation, we looked at the total volume of 4MP GPCD requirements versus what the 5MP GPCD requirements would have been and across each AMA. The chart on this slide shows the total 4MP GPCD requirements volume in light blue and the 5MP GPCD requirements volume in dark blue for the Phoenix AMA. We also updated the flexibility account provisions for the 5MP. The current flexibility account provisions, which account for variations in precipitation, differ across the AMAs. They range from a negative limit of -10 to -20 and a positive limit of 30 to 60. ADWR is proposing to streamline the flexibility account provisions across all AMAs and proposes the middle range of -15 to +45 for all AMAs. The current compliance GPCD calculation includes water from any source except direct use effluent and effluent recovered within the area of impact for non-irrigation uses. In the 5MPs, we are proposing that the compliance GPCD calculation includes all sources of water except non-potable direct use effluent and non-potable effluent recovered within the area of impact for non-irrigation use. To align with the need for conservation for all water types and the value of potable water, the proposal removes the potable effluent incentive. Next slide, please. All right. The development of the golf conservation program had several goals. One, to reduce withdrawals of groundwater. Two, to make the impact equitable across different types of courses and to have a smaller impact on those courses that have already made significant efforts in conservation. Three, to incorporate realistic practices into the allotment method. And four, to increase simplicity and transparency. Previous golf conservation programs were very complex and difficult to understand for both staff and the regulated community. There are currently 2 proposals for the golf course conservation program. One was released in February and one at the end of April. Both proposals have been adjusted to fit each AMA, but follow a similar structure. The proposals consisted of an allotment method, allotment additions, and the effluent adjustment. The allotment method consists of different limits and application rates for different aspects of the golf course. So turf, low water use acres, and water surface acres. However, the method is just a way to set the allotment. So golf courses may still use that water on their courses as they see fit. Each of the 2 proposals has different trade-offs that impact courses differently depending on the characteristics of the course. The conservation program for golf has not yet been finalized. We've received a lot of feedback on the program and discussions are still ongoing. Next slide, please. The non-golf conservation program has few changes from the 4th management plan, and those changes are centered on the method used for developing the maximum annual allotment. So similar to the golf program, our goal was to include realistic rates and realistic application rates. The turf application rates were adjusted to represent the application rates and proportions of different uses of turf, such as decorative turf and athletic uses. The resulting application rates were very similar to those in the 4th management plan. So the biggest change to the non-golf program is to the low water use acres application rate. This updated number better incorporates scientific data and more closely reflects the needs of low water use acres. As with the golf program, the non-golf program was adjusted for each AMA. Next slide, please. So the department is having internal discussions on potential updates to the recharge and recovery program. Potential proposals such as simple administrative updates are being considered, which would streamline the application process for recharge and recovery, as well as reduce the burden on both the applicant and ADWR staff, while still meeting the goals of the program. So we still have some internal work to do before sharing those details, but we will schedule a public meeting once those details are available. Next slide, please. And lastly, the 5MP Concepts webpage has been shown to this group several times, but I'll briefly say that the concepts on this page are organized by subgroups. We've included interactive dashboards, illustrations, and graphics, and summaries of the corresponding work group meetings, as well as comments from the stakeholder community that we've received on the concepts and proposals. We encourage you to visit this page and check it out if you haven't done so yet. The link to that page is included here at the top of the slide. And next slide, please. With that, I'd like to thank you for your time and attention. My contact information is available here, and the management plans team and I are happy to take any questions from the council.
Thank you, Maggie. Council members, any questions, comments? Any other questions, comments from other members in attendance today?
Not seeing anything in the chat, but Natalie Mass put a link to the 5th management plan's concept page Maggie just spoke about.
Can you restate the last comment?
Natalie put a link in the chat box of the fifth management plan's concepts page Maggie just spoke about.
Good.
This is Bob Lynch. Can you hear me?
Who is this?
Bob Lynch.
Yes, Bob.
Presume you've got, well, you have some sort of legal subcommittee. Is anybody looking at what's happening in groundwater law in Arizona and what possible effects it can have on the fifth management plan?
Does staff have an answer?
Hi, Chairman Cleveland. This is Natalie Mast. So we, the department, certainly keep an eye on legislative changes, that type of thing. At this point, there are no specific changes that we've seen coming for the fifth management plans. But we do have a group under the Governor's Water Augmentation, Innovation, and Conservation Council that is looking at issues coming for the AMAs after 2025. That's the post-2025 subcommittee. I don't know if John would have anything to add to that.
Nothing to add. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Natalie, the Legal and Regulatory Subcommittee that I referenced in my presentation, that subcommittee actually focuses more on the legal and regulatory components of desalination in the state of Arizona, not necessarily to all the water challenges that the committees and the council address. So a short answer, yes, the post-2025 AMAs committee within the Governor's Water Council would be the committee that would explore any of those obstacles as far as regulation.
Well, this is Bob Lynch again. I guess I'm not making my point clear. We've spent from 1935 until 1999.
Go ahead, Bob.
1935 to 1999 with a judicially defined distinction between a well that was drawing surface water and a well that was drawing groundwater. And then things started to change, and they continue to change. And this is stuff that legislature's doing. It's the stuff the courts are doing. And that was the point of the question: is that you have Winter's doctrine rights to groundwater now, and they carry a priority date under the common bowl theory that Arizona's adopted originally in 1919. We don't have priority dates. There are many other issues related to water quality and other things. And it seems to me that if you're going to plan, you need to be keeping an eye on what the courts are doing to change the rules. That's just the point of my comment.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Lynch. This is Natalie Mast again. Maybe just to be clear, it sounds like what you're referring to is some things under the adjudications process, the general streams adjudications. And the management plans for the active management areas have a pretty specific statutory authority related to groundwater. So I think these might just be two separate issues. I don't think the management plans have authority with what you're referring to, but it certainly is something we as the department pay attention to when we're developing these sorts of plans, kind of what is happening in all of water resources for the state. So I know that doesn't directly address your question, but I guess my point there is that those are kind of two separate processes.
Well, court-made law is obviously separate from administrative planning. I'm just saying that they're not separate in terms of what you think you're regulating. And, you know, ever since 1999, the rules have been changed by courts And the adjudication process is bringing up some of those issues, but it's not exclusive to that. And I don't know if Dave Roberts is still on the line, and he may be squirming and not want to say anything. But Pat Siegel, if he's on the line, but it seems to me that there's a missing piece in this dialogue.
This is Dave Roberts. I'm not squirming. Certainly understand what you're saying, and you know, the courts are going to do what the courts are going to do, and the department's going to do what it does in accordance with what the legislature has asked them to do in terms of the groundwater code. And if the courts say something that impacts how the department manages groundwater under the groundwater code, then there'll have to be some reconciliation of that in some process. And would probably open up the management plans when we get to that point, if we ever get to that point. So I think those issues are yet to be determined as we go along. So those are my comments.
Buena suerte.
Well, thank both of you for shedding some light on this. I know there's going to require some additional legal and probably some court conversations as we move forward. But and I assume there's enough dialogue here to at least start on both sides a question about what should the parties be doing to at least address the observations that Bob has made and the observation Dave has made, and those other things that surround this matter. And I don't think we can do that here at this moment, but might be something that should be researched, that staff can ask our legal folks to begin to look at and see if there's a way that maybe we can determine what our next step should be. Or do we have any other topics?
So we have call to the council next.
Call to the public and adjournment. So are we ready to go to a call to the council to determine anything left that needs to be raised that can then be made part of a future agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Who is that?
Sorry, this is Kyle. I'm saying.
Okay, Kyle, go ahead.
I was going to say, yes, feel free to move to the call of the council. Anything that the council is interested in hearing about at future meetings, I would be glad to take note.
Council members, are you prepared to discuss possible items for future council meetings? Hearing no objections, staff, would you please identify some?
Yeah, we'll work on that. And I'll have a phone call with you and we'll get an agenda squared away for the next meeting.
Okay. Do any council members have any items that they would like to have put on that list that they would like to identify at this time? If you don't have anything at the moment, go ahead and reach out to Kyle and provide that information to him in the next day or two so that we can have that put together for future agenda preparations. May I then call to the public? Are there any members in the public that wish to bring up items that they would like us to consider at future meetings, including those that we have already been talking about? Hearing none, it would appear that it is time to identify when would be the next appropriate meetings, so that then I can call for adjournment.
So we are planning for the next meeting to be in August sometime. We don't have a date set yet. We do anticipate that it'll be a hybrid meeting, meaning we'll be in person and streaming online. So look forward to seeing some of you in person at the next meeting.
Is this satisfactory with council members?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so we will look at calendars for an August meeting or a possible hybrid meeting.
That is correct.
Hearing no objections, I would call for adjourning this meeting, and we've managed to stay within approximate 2-hour estimate. Staff did a great job of preparing the worked with all the different speakers to work within their allotted times. Are there any, if there are no objections, I will call for adjournment.
Bye now.
So no other matters to come before this body. This meeting is now adjourned at 3:05.
Great.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody, for participating. It was a great meeting.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.